Welcome to the 707, a weekly half-hour program produced by KRCB, a service of NorCal Public Media. The 707 features voices and stories from your community, stories that inspire courage, and stories that show how we are connected to each other. I'm your host, Michelle Marques. For more than a quarter century, PBS stations have been airing a series of documentary films called Independent Lens. The series has won multiple Emmy Awards, and at Northern California Public Media, we're proud to carry this program on our television stations. We also host preview screenings of this series, and in March this year, the public attended an Indie Lens pop-up event to watch a film called The Inquisitor, a documentary directed by Angela Tucker about civil rights icon Barbara Jordan.
Barbara Jordan's got the voice of God.
The first black woman elected to Congress from the Deep South.
She was able to reach out to people on all sides.
My faith is whole, it is complete, it is total, and I am not going to sit here and be an idle spectator to the destruction of the Constitution.
In today's episode, we'll share the experience of the screening as well as the local panel who discussed the film with a Q&A. So, who is Barbara Jordan? Born in 1936, Jordan grew up in segregated Houston, Texas, and became interested in public speaking while attending church and school. She went to Texas Southern University, where she majored in political science and history, and one of her debate coaches was Thomas Freeman, who also taught Martin Luther King Jr. In the film, Jordan describes Freeman's influence on her.
We were to drive into a city, the signs are up, white, colored. Thomas Freeman would refuse to go in the back door. He said, "We'll get a sandwich and eat it by the side of the road before I take you through a back door." That certainly made an impression on me.
Jordan attended Boston University to get her law degree. After graduating, she taught political science and started her own private practice. In the early 1960s, Jordan ran for the Texas House of Representatives without success. Then in 1966, she was elected as the first black woman to the Texas Senate. She served multiple terms and in 1972 was elected as the first woman from Texas to a seat at the U.S. House of Representatives. Support from former President Lyndon B. Johnson helped Jordan secure a position on the House Judiciary Committee at a fateful moment in the history of our country.
The Democratic National Committee is trying to solve a spy mystery. 5 intruders were captured by police inside the offices of the committee in Washington. The 5 men carried cameras and apparently had planted electronic bugs.
Mr. Nixon says emphatically that the White House is in no way involved in the burglary and bugging of the Democratic headquarters.
Barbara Jordan made a powerful, concise speech as the American people watched intently.
Earlier today, we heard the beginning of the preamble to the Constitution of the United States. We the people. It's a very eloquent beginning. But when that document was completed on the 17th of September in 1787, I was not included in that we the people. I felt somehow for many years that George Washington and Alexander Hamilton just left me out by mistake. But through the process of amendment, interpretation, and court decision, I have finally been included in we the people. Today, I am an inquisitor, and hyperbole would not be fictional and would not overstate the solemnness that I feel right now. My faith in the Constitution is whole, it is complete, it is total. And I am not going to sit here and be an idle spectator to the diminution, the subversion, the destruction of the Constitution.
She laid out the case in a way that made it easy to understand the Constitution and the amendments, all without directly saying that Nixon should be impeached, but comparing his actions with the criteria for impeachment.
We know the nature of impeachment. We've been talking about it a while now. It is chiefly designed for the president and his high ministers to somehow be called into account. It is designed to bridle the executive if he engages in excesses. It is designed as a method of national inquest into the conduct of public men. Framers confided in the Congress the power, if need be, to remove the president in order to strike a delicate balance between a president swollen with power and grown tyrannical and preservation of the independence of the executive. But impeachment must proceed within the confines of the constitutional term high crime and misdemeanors. If the impeachment provision in the Constitution of the United States will not reach the offenses charged here, then perhaps that 18th century Constitution should be abandoned to a 20th century paper shredder.
Jordan's House Judiciary Committee speech wasn't just influential because it led to Nixon's resignation, but it also had a huge impact on her career. She was booked for a year for speaking engagements. Beyond Jordan's political career, the Inquisitor examines her complicated life as a lesbian at a time when coming out would have ended her career in politics. Jordan was in a committed relationship with her partner, Nancy Earle, but they did not make it public. In 1978, Jordan retired from politics because her health began to fail. For the rest of her life, she devoted her time to teaching at the University of Texas, and the word that is on her gravestone is the word teacher. The panel at NorCal Public Media's screening of The Inquisitor was moderated by Gregory Appling from Petaluma Blacks for Community Development. Our panelists are retired Sonoma County Superior Court Judge, the Honorable D. Anthony Wheeldon, President of Sonoma County's NAACP, Kirsten Lange, and Rohnert Park Council member Jackie Elward. Appling started the conversation with a question to Wheeldon, who has studied the life of Barbara Jordan and brought along a biography of the Congresswoman.
So I thought the documentary was outstanding because what the book lacks and what is so important about Barbara Jordan is hearing that voice. The book doesn't give you that. So the book is flat, but this gives you the opportunity to hear, in my view, one of the most eloquent speakers America has had in my lifetime.
And you mentioned the congressional hearing around Nixon and her ability to set the stage at the very beginning. How important was that?
You know, I think it was critical because she brought to it not just a political party perspective. She brought to it an historical, independent, academic perspective. This was not just politics. We're not just after him. We're not just going to impeach to impeach. We're impeaching because the Constitution has been violated. And this is about the properness of what we do when we sense there's been a violation of that. So it wasn't, in my mind, it wasn't political. And that's very different from what we've seen recently.
Here's Kirsten Lange.
I learned about Barbara Jordan in the 7th grade at a history teacher who was fascinated by the Watergate scandal and showed us the material in truest form as age appropriate for us. And one of the things that he made a huge impression of, emphasizing the role that Barbara Jordan had in setting the stage and the importance of understanding the Constitution. It was at that point that for every endeavor I've engaged in, even through my adult life and even in my role with NAACP, I read the bylaws through and through, because you have to understand where the protocols and procedures are so that you are following them and you are adhering them, and that, at least in my instance, I'm not a victim of, or I'm not a culprit of violating those bylaws. And even in error, understanding where the course correction comes in. So it was that early impression of her really instilling the Constitution's value that landed on me at such a young age and has really become a pattern of practice for me.
Appling compared the work Jordan did in the 60s to what's happening today across the country.
The 1965 Voting Rights Act, Texas was excluded from that in the beginning. So she had to do work during her time to actually get Texas included, and that's helped to redo some of the gerrymandering that she faced. But your thoughts on that?
I think that was an important aspect of making sure that representation is reflective of the residents. And I think we often think of, leadership and representatives as folks who are making our decisions, but also it's the people power. It's the people getting to the polls, having access to the polls, and as we see, that is often and currently always being challenged and compromised. And it's why one of the things that I learned participating in our local redistricting experience, the importance of making sure that there's representation equitably across the board as much as you can make it, and following those policies.
Elward spoke about the importance of representation in politics.
As an elected myself right now, dealing with it, we get discouraged because we deal with what is, people really don't think that you can do the job. They have ways, especially our white friends or allies will say, will discourage you not to do the job. Either they will make you feel like you're not intelligent or you're not capable of doing the job, even when you have the ability to perform well than anybody else in the room. So for me, it is a dedication, because my own children are watching how I react when I deal with those kind of things, and not take a setback, like I call it, not a failure, as a tool for me to use to jump even higher.
In the next segment of the 707, the panel take questions from the audience about Congresswoman Barbara Jordan. This is KRCB.
KRCB is Sonoma County's NPR station. Wondering what makes us stand out? It's simple, our unwavering commitment to this community. Morning Music, hosted by Brian Griffith, sets the perfect tone for your day.
Brian here with you on Sonoma County's NPR station.
As the sun climbs high, join Doug Jane for Midday Music.
Doug Jane with you. Thanks for tuning in.
It's the soundtrack of Sonoma County. Then, stay informed with All Things Considered, featuring insightful reporting from the KRCB newsroom, ensuring you're always in the loop.
For Manzana, the company that helped keep Sebastopol's famous Gravenstein apple alive, their 103rd year in business will be their last.
Your home for the best in local news and music. Because when the community sings, we're here to listen. Your radio, your stories, your station. KRCB 104.9, Sonoma County's NPR station.
Welcome back to the 707 on KRCB. I'm your host, Michelle Marques. In March, NorCal Public Media hosted an Indie Lens pop-up screening of the documentary The Inquisitor about the life of Congresswoman Barbara Jordan. The panel discussion was moderated by Gregory Appling from Petaluma Blacks for Community Development. Our panelists included the Honorable D. Anthony Wielden, Kirsten Lange, President of Sonoma County NAACP, and Rohnert Park Councilmember Jackie Elward. Appling asked the panelists to think about the weight of the significant events and historical milestones that Jordan dealt with, from being the first Black person elected since Reconstruction in the Texas Senate to her role on the House Judiciary Committee during the impeachment process of President Nixon, and her personal struggle as a lesbian during a time when politicians were closeted. Wielden spoke to that pressure.
One of the things, again, that's discussed in the book and I think was presented in the film is the importance of self-acceptance. We have a society, especially now with social media, where you are not just subject to scrutiny, you're subject to ongoing criticism. Human beings love to throw dirt. We'll tear down much more quickly than we'll build up. And given what she had as her set, her self-acceptance, I think, became her strength. From a political point of view, she took as a rock the concept of ground up. That is, democracy works, power works from the ground up. We have, of course, human beings who still want to operate power down. The people at the top tell everyone else what to do. She embraced that with such fervor and such strong belief that it was a guide for her. But I think it all started with her self-acceptance, which is something that is hard for all of us. No matter who we are, when we are, we're all sometimes a little overweight. We're all sometimes not what other people would want us to be. And so we have to have a way of getting to what's important and separating out those things that just fall into the category of meaningless criticism.
And Kirsten, your thoughts on that?
I think in my role with NAACP, I often have to recognize who I am and what I'm standing for and what's the root of the issue and who's bringing the issue forward. Because if I don't take that examination, then I could respond in a knee-jerk way. I could respond very emotionally, and that's not productive. So I often, and I've done a lot of work, good thing for therapy, to understand really who I am and what I stand for. And I always stick to my core values. And when I always go back to my values, those become the guiding principles that allow me to stay principled in dealing with issues that come up. Because as you can imagine, as social justice and civil rights organization, there are a lot of things that come up in this county, a lot of things that could easily erupt emotionally. And I really always have to stop, take a pause. It's the leadership from women like Barbara Jordan and many other trailblazers that I've learned those skill sets from to adopt in my own practice so that I can respond in a way that people can hear me. As a Black woman, I know the emotion in my voice is always going to be something that puts people on guard. So I also have to temper that as well so that people can hear the message and hear what I'm saying and not get caught up in what they think I may be feeling.
And Jackie, for you, kind of also as someone who's running for an assembly position, being able to stay calm, stay focused, as well as reach across the aisle also. That's one of the things that Barbara Jordan was big on, about pulling people together. Your thoughts there?
One of the things that I've learned in politics is you have to be able to be calm, but yet also call out what is happening. And in a way that not to fight, but to say in a very respectful way, this is the issue, and recognize there is a problem. And myself, I've been playing the role of a bridge here as an elected official, but that doesn't mean that I will be changing who I am. Accepting being a Black woman and being in a county that often tear us apart, you also have to self-protect, self-love, self-promote in a way that even if people don't want to hear, but in a long way, they will understand where you're coming from.
Hi, my name is Zach. I live in Santa Rosa. She seemed like a very strategic person, seeing how she was able to move through different rooms in politics, make partnerships and allies across party lines. And that sort of strategy, it has its pros and its cons. It got her to the top, but then there's those in the Black community who were like, you weren't Black enough, or you weren't so focused on the women's rights. And I'm just curious of what you guys think on that sort of strategy, and if you've had to employ similar strategy in your careers.
It definitely comes up for me with NAACP because everything we do has to be strategic. And I often find myself navigating across the different elected official realms, right? There's an issue that's happening in District 3, but I need to make sure council's aware. I need to make sure that county supervisor is aware. How do I get them to talk to each other but not violate the Brown Act? How do I get the information across and get the point across and advocate for the community on the issue that's being brought forward? We are a nonpartisan organization, so political party makes me no difference. But again, people power is what is important. So how are we advocating for the needs of the people that we serve? And for me, it doesn't matter that whether you're a member or not. I do get a lot of, well, you're too Black on this issue, or you're not being sensitive enough to this issue. And it is definitely difficult. It's a delicate dance. I feel like a bit of a ballerina sometimes that's coming out of the spin when you're trying to navigate all of these different spaces.
I just was wondering if this film or a shortened version of it is being shown in high schools and colleges. She was so superlative and was her history that it should be shown, because I don't know how many young people watch PBS who are going to watch this on their own.
Hey, I'm Darren Lachelle, President and CEO of NorCal Public Media. I want to let you know that excerpts of this film are being used in what they call the PBS Learning Media Platform. And those are shared with high schools and with middle schools. And there's a whole lesson plan around civics and engagement around this film. So I'm glad for the good news on that one.
Hi, my name's Katie, and I live in Sonoma. Currently, with the dissolution of norms that we have going on and the lack of people like Barbara Jordan in the world, I'm feeling a lot of despair that, I mean, we need her now more than ever, and people like her that can bring people together, because we're just not seeing that right now at all. And so, do you have any hope?
I think she would offer the view that it's not just hope. Enough people see the importance of our political system. We saw people stand up in Minnesota. We saw what happened to some of them. It's going to be tough to live through what we've got going on right now, but I think we'll get past this. I think that there will be enough people, ordinary people, not MAGA, not pro-democratic to the max, who will say, this isn't the course, this isn't the way. So it's discouraging, and I don't want to say I have hope, but I have an expectation that we'll get through this.
You can watch Angela Tucker's documentary, The Inquisitor, on PBS Passport and the PBS Documentaries YouTube channel. Learn more at pbs.org/independent lens and join us for upcoming Indie Lens pop-up screenings. I'm your host and producer of this program, Michelle Marques. This show is a service of NorCal Public Media. Our president and CEO is Darren Lachelle.